All right, guys, now we're moving on to bag F, which includes the rest of the rear end assembly on the EB410.2 build. We've got quite a few new parts in this bag as well. So first off, we've got the new wing mount. It's one piece, which is really nice because then over time it doesn't try to twist on itself. When it was two pieces over time, they would move one way or the other, and then the wing mount would just be bent. So the one piece kind of gets rid of that. It's also got some other parts, some risers that come with it that were things that we were kind of doing by gluing the original wing height risers together. They just come with I believe a 5mm and a 10mm option further along in the kit. Next up, we also have a new rear hub, which allows for hub height adjustment. And it also gives you two different heights for where to mount your link, and then 4 different positions across, which is really nice. Obviously, it's a vertical mount, so you don't have to deal with ball stud washers or anything like that anymore. The other thing is, instead of having, because we have moved the shocks to the front of the arm, and it seems to be more beneficial to mount the camber link to the actual shock tower. Instead of mounting it to the shock tower now, it has its own camber plate. The camber plate has all these different options, so it's a lot more like the front end where there's a camber plate that attaches to the shock tower, and then you mount your camber link to that camber plate. So that's new, and with that is a new shock tower, which makes room for that. Beyond that, we have some new heavy-duty drive shafts and some new rod ends that can go further into the wheel without wheel clearance issues. And last but not least are the new standoffs, which last a whole lot longer. You don't have to worry about wearing out your shock caps. So if you do want to spend the extra money for the aluminum shock caps, you don't have to worry. You get a little bit of peace of mind. The plastic bushings that go inside can be replaced super easily, and they also last a whole lot longer. So that's kind of everything else wrapped up in the end of the rear end build for the EB410.2. So I'll go ahead and get started on this and make sure to document everything, and then we'll show you what it looks like when we're all done. So stay tuned and keep checking out all the content. Thank you. All right, guys, now we are back, and bag F is now complete. So bag F was the rest of the rear end build. So pretty much the rear end is completely done minus shocks. But yeah, we've got a lot of new stuff on this one. So I'm kind of walk through everything so you can kind of see what's going on. Obviously, we've got the new hubs. They do have a height adjustment, so you can move the rear hub up and down. They also are now mounted vertically, and there's 2 different positions. You can mount it further down, which is what it is right now, or further up. And then there's 4 different positions across, just like there was on the original hubs. I did deviate a little bit from the manual here. I'm going to run my link a little bit shorter because I am running on a lower bite track. So that's kind of the only real difference. Beyond that, we have a new rear shock tower. It's got this camber plate attached as well. So instead of attaching the camber link to the old camber plate or to the shock tower itself, you actually have a floating camber plate that sits back here. So you have more options and everything on where to mount your camber links. So we've got the new rear shock tower. We also have a new rear wing mount. It's one piece, so it can't flex laterally back and forth or even twist. New C and D blocks, which allow for more toe. New rear arms so that you can mount the shocks on the front of the arm. New hinge pins, they're 3.5mm instead of 3. The rear end is now super crazy free. I didn't dremel it at all. I didn't do any of that. Didn't ream it, nothing. And then obviously we have our new sway bar mount. Everything, so that's all attached up because the sway bars go in the opposite direction because we're mounting the shocks on the front side. And then there's some little things like the rear body mount no longer uses 3mm nuts on the end. It's actually threaded, so you don't have to worry about losing those or them stripping out in the actual wing mount. They're just not there anymore, so that's super nice. Beyond that, I think that's pretty much it for the rear end. I think next I'm going to move on to bag G, which is going to be the rest of the front end assembly, and we'll kind of just keep going from there. But this one had a lot of differences. Oh, the one thing I forgot, I did mount the +1 hexes, and I'll go ahead and include the part number for the blog, but I will be using associated offset wheels, so I went ahead and went with the +1 hexes. If you're using low-C offset wheels, you can just use the ones that come with it, but if not, I do recommend getting the +1s, and I'll go ahead and put the part number in the blog, and I might even put it in the video, so it may just pop up somewhere. Oh, and the last thing is the new shock standoffs, which use the press and bushings that go into the shock caps, and those just make your shock caps last a lot longer. So yeah, the rear end has quite a few differences. I know a lot of people were kind of questioning whether or not it was enough to make it a new kit that was, worth spending the money on, but there's a lot going on here. We're really happy with it, and we've been pretty impressed on the track with how it's been compared to the old car. So stay tuned. We'll move on to the front end, and we'll keep it moving. Thank you.